Three teams tell the New York Knicks, hands off our head coach. Is this coaching search already a disaster, and should it disqualify the Knicks from Kevin Durant's trade shortlist? Game 3 of the NBA Finals is tonight, and the most important player on OKC's roster might not be their MVP or one of their All-Stars. All that and more today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts, and I have two of the best with me, as always. From the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network, it's Matt Moore. Matt, have the Knicks called David Locke requesting permission to speak to you about their head coaching position?
I was going to say, they should just not even bother wasting their time because I'd never leave the Locked On Podcast Network. But, how much money are we talking? How much money are we talking?
Oh, Haize. What about that? From the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got Haize. Haize, I would never allow the Knicks to take you away from us.
Please don't, because if I ever become a Knicks fan, things have gone terribly wrong in life. There you go.
Well, everyone is saying no to the Knicks right now. The Knicks have requested and been denied an interview reportedly with Mavs coach Jason Kidd, Rockets head coach Ime Udoka, and Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch. This doesn't feel like a normal part of a head coaching search, but you tell me if I'm wrong, Matt. Is this an embarrassment? Does Jim Dolan's standing with the rest of the owners in the league play a part in this? What's your read on how this is playing out so far for New York?
I don't remember this having happened where you asked 3 times. Usually these conversations are done with a little bit more discretion. I would not be surprised if Dolan's reputation and relationships within the league were part of this conversation. I would not be surprised with that at all. There's it reeks of a certain amount of arrogance, right? Of, well, we're the Knicks. Give us your guy because we want him because we're the Knicks. Your guy wants to go. Come on, we're the Knicks. And it's like, well, sure, but also no. So I don't know. I think it's fine for them to ask these big names. It's going to be very funny if they wind up, because they put out a leak pretty early, like it's not going to be Michael Malone. It's going to be very funny if they just come back and are like, yeah, it's Michael Malone. That's going to be very funny to me.
Circle all the way back to Michael Malone. The Knicks right now are like the person who slides into every Instagram thoughts DMs and gets turned down and ignored. That's what's happening right now to the New York Knicks. It's just, it's really embarrassing. But hey, I hope they find their coach, man. It should be Mike Malone anyway.
So this is interesting. Is it they're calling the teams and the teams are just straight denying without even consulting, if the Rockets, you're consulting Ime Udoka and gauging interest. You think these teams are just hanging up the phone immediately? Or is this also a case of Kidd, Udoka, Chris Finch also being like, nah, we're good. We don't really want to interview.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Kidd one is the most suspect one, right? The Kidd one seems like it was probably mutually instigated, which is curious to me. And if it is, I'm like, why are you just you gotta keep Jason Kidd? No way, we're not letting Jason Kidd leave here. Why? I get that you made finals with him, but also not a great coach. And if he doesn't want to be there, I don't understand holding on to him. So that, to me, is kind of the question is if Jason Kidd wants to go, especially if you can extract a draft pick, you're going to need that down the line. So it's all a very confusing situation. I can't wait to see what the next turn in this saga is going to be.
Well, let's hear from the team at Locked On Knicks. Alex Wolf has an idea of how to pivot and save face. Sometimes when you want to move forward, you have to look back.
Who are the other names out there that you're interested in?
I think we're both pretty well on record of Johnnie Bryant being a guy that just makes a lot of sense. Familiarity with the team already. The offense, I think, took a huge step back in terms of creativity this past year. And in terms of the sets they were running and the fact that they just kind of gradually got less creative as the year went on. You remove Johnnie Bryant and suddenly the offense with more offensive talent on it is playing less to those talents. You wonder if maybe that had something to do with losing your lead assistant, who was a pretty big voice on the team, it seemed like, and who clearly has really good offensive chops as far as drawing up plays and finding ways to get guys involved and stuff like that. So as was evidenced, if not by his Knicks tenure, then by how he was part of the staff that turned Cleveland into a juggernaut this year during the regular season and unlocked a lot of things in their offense.
Johnnie Bryant, the runner-up in the Phoenix Suns head coaching search that eventually went to Jordan Ott. Haize, is it time for the Knicks to just pivot completely, and maybe it's Mike Malone, or round up all of the usual lead assistant suspects, including Johnnie Bryant?
Yeah, I think Johnnie Bryant, Mike Malone. I'd be taking the call, also trying to reach out to Chris Quinn with the Miami Heat. He's one of my favorite assistants in the league that I think can turn into a really good head coach if he's willing to leave that Miami Heat organization. But with the place that the Heat are in, I want somebody who's either familiar with my players already or that has some championship experience, if you can get that. So I'd be knocking down the door for Mike Malone. I don't understand why it seemed like they were out on him. He seems like perfectly made for the situation to come into the New York Knicks and try to kind of right this shit while they have the assets that they have, in my opinion.
Can I just say, I'm just so glad the Knicks has a clown shower back. I miss this. Like they had like this 3-4 year run where it was like they were a serious organization and they're back to being the Knicks. No, don't go get Johnnie Bryant. Don't go get a good Chris Quinn. No, those coaches need to go to real organizations with real owners. Go get Mark Jackson. That's who you should call. Go call Mark Jackson. He's right there. Go get Mark. That is the best situation. You want to go back? Go back to Mark Jackson. That's the move here. Come on, Dolan. You can do it. I believe it.
That would be so not to shameless plug. I try not to plug my own separate thing. I actually have a mini documentary I made on Mark Jackson and his exit on not being in the NBA. But Mark Jackson would be, if you really want to disrupt something and make some noise, hire Mark Jackson.
Yes.
All right. Well, send me the link. We'll put the link in the show notes so that you can go check out Haize's analysis there. Also on this episode, they discussed rumors that have the Knicks on a short list of destinations for a Suns trade of Kevin Durant. Haize's favorite topic. Gavin and Alex each had different reasons to be cautious about a trade.
You're just closing your window, right, relative to having Cat on your team. And maybe it's worth it because maybe the Knicks look at it as we'd rather have a 20% chance at winning a title for 1 year and a 15% chance the next year before that window completely slams versus having Cat and feeling like we have maybe 7%, 8% chance for 5 years.
I don't love adding Kevin Durant to any team that I follow. He just doesn't seem like a real team player anymore. Something about every single team that he's gone to in recent memory, even the Warriors, just kind of crumbling. And the Warriors managed to pick the pieces up well enough to win another championship after he left. But elsewhere, it's just like, it seems like every other stop that he's made, the Nets and now the Suns, it ends in total disaster.
Matt, what do you think about that analysis there from Locked On Knicks? Would adding Kevin Durant make the Knicks' problems worse?
No. I think it's pretty evident that the Wingstop guys were a little frustrated with Cat throughout the course of this playoff run. And if it wasn't really clear, maybe you should check out the massive hit piece that came out the day after their season ended, sparked by comments clearly planted by people around the players. So that fit was never a natural one. They got Cat because it was like, hey, we can get Cat for Julius Randle. This helps us match up with Boston. And it did in a weird way, none of us really still understand. But look, KD last year, 72% at the rim, 54% from mid-range, 43% from three. He's a better defender. KD is still awesome. You don't need chemistry. You have the Villanova guys who all do the roommates podcast and all that. You don't need that. Go get KD. I think this makes a lot of sense. I'd also really like this because Kat and Booker are really good friends and play Call of Duty together. And that would be an incredible storyline of them winning games and then going back and winning matches in Warzone. I like this idea.
After my rant yesterday, this just tells me that my good friend Doug Branson here cares nothing about my boundaries. He doesn't care anything about my boundaries. He said, I don't want to talk Kevin Durant. He's topic on the show. No, just
wait.
No. But Listen, I think if the Knicks can swing it, why not? While I had my rant yesterday that Kevin Durant, when's the last time he joined a team and was able to compete for a title and all that? Like, I think if you add KD to this team, you have something, especially depending on the head coach that you got. So if they can swing it, cool. I'm not saying that they should be willing to sell the farm to get him there, but I mean, I can understand why the Knicks would be going after Kevin Durant.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, we keep talking about a potential trade for Kevin Durant, including new reporting from Brian Windhorst about how quick it could happen for the Suns, and should the Suns prioritize their own team and second apron status over the destination that Kevin Durant would prefer. That, plus we talk about Game 3 of the finals tonight. Tyrese Haliburton may be injured, maybe not, and who is the most important player for the Oklahoma City Thunder? It might not be who you think. That's coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Wayfair. There is nothing like stepping into your own outdoor space and feeling that you've escaped to a personal oasis. If you're wanting to update your patio this season, Wayfair has made it so easy to turn it into a space that feels like yours. Comfortable, stylish, and ready for summer. Wayfair has everything you need to level up your outdoor space: conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lights to set that vibe. It's like giving your backyard that resort feel without the resort price tag. I'm in the middle of giving my own front porch a refresh. My style leans clean and modern, so I loved that I was able to go into Wayfair and filter and find exactly what fits our space and our budget. Don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with Wayfair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now and shop a huge outdoor selection. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Picking up our conversation on Kevin Durant, Brian Windhorst on Get Up yesterday made it sound like that that this is all going to happen quicker than we think, and B, that there's a question about who is going to control this process. Matt, should Phoenix just do what's in the best interest of the Phoenix books or the Phoenix ability to compete around Devin Booker, or should they help Kevin Durant find a good landing spot?
One, I got several things are in my head right now. One, Haize request, let's not talk about Kevin Durant. Doug, what if we do 2 segments on it? Two, Shams Charania, while Doug was doing his ad read, has come out and reported he's not traded yet. Don't panic. The Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant's business partner, boardroom CEO Rich Kleiman, have met multiple times over the past week and are sifting through trade scenarios, sources told ESPN Wednesday. Teams that have expressed interest in Durant, sources said, mainly feature the Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, Miami Heat, Minnesota Timberwolves, and the New York Knickerbockers. By the way, first line of the SEO here, first line of the story features boardroom CEO Rich Kleiman. Wonder where this information came from, though.
No idea.
Shams' sources so deep. The Suns need to do what's best. No, the Suns should work with KD here. There is just, you cannot treat a player like Ant says that he grew up watching KD. That's his favorite player. You can't treat that player badly on the way out. It will have ramifications for you down the line. A lot of the young players in this league grew up idolizing, loving, and watching KD. That was a decade ago when he did Mama, You the Real MVP. Like, you need to have some respect. It is always better to have respect for these guys. That doesn't mean you have to take the worst offer. If he was like, I want to go to Miami, you should take Nikola Jovic and trash. Like, no, you don't need to do that. Right? You don't have to like the Blazers had the right idea. Work with him on an alternative destination where both parties win. And the fact that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams on this primary list with a number of wild card suitors, quote unquote, apparently they've inquired in the last 10 days, I think indicates that like KD's willing to be like, there's a number of places that we can go. I think both parties can come out of this with a win.
That all sounds beautiful, Haize, but the Phoenix Suns are in a really difficult position with Bradley Beal's no trade clause and not wanting to be moved. Like they've got some tight windows to get through here to still compete with Devin Booker. Should they accommodate KD and find him the spot that he wants to go to?
Yeah, I mean, they should accommodate him to reasons, especially if he has 5 teams plus on his list. There should be all these teams make sense. Houston, San Antonio, Minnesota, Miami, New York. Miami may be the questionable one on what can they really give you back that you want the most out of. But like all these teams have reasonable offers that they can make you. And I think they'll be fair offers. It'd be different if he said that he wanted to go to a team that had no draft picks, no cap space, and no promising young players. And you're like, well, what are we going to get back in this deal? So I think it worked with Kevin Durant on this. I think it's going to be good vibes, good feelings there. It could help you with negotiations later down the road. Because per what Matt said, like you don't want to screw over a player on their way out if you don't have to, right? So all these teams have things that really help the Suns now and in the future. So I think work with this team if this is his list and get it done.
I got a take here. I don't buy the Rocket stuff. I don't, man. Everything I've heard on them, and they could have gone and gotten him last year. They could have done this deal last year. Everything we've heard about the Rockets is that they want a star that aligns with their timeline. That if you're building around Amen and Şengün, maybe Jalen Green, I guess, and or whoever else on that team, that you want them in line with the young guys. You don't want to throw in a 35-year-old with a bunch of 23-year-olds and try and win a championship. That doesn't make any sense. Like that does not. They are trying to set up a superpower in Houston. I don't think that the KD thing makes a lot of sense there. There's another name that I think is really interesting for them, but I'll wait on that.
No, go ahead, Matt. If you got another thing, go ahead.
No, I want to hear what you have to think about that.
I was just going to push back on that in the sense like I understand where you're getting at. And yeah, you want a star that can align with them. But there could be something to said that, like, if you have Kevin Durant here now, and I think he's going to want an extension, whether it's 1-2 years, whatever it is, that there's a natural transition of power that hopefully by the end of KD's run then in Houston, you have Amen Thompson at the height of his powers ready to take over and lead a team. And so there could be something to said that over that time, if you're competing for titles and championships, Western Conference Finals in that time, that you're kind of jump starting that progress maybe a little bit for Amen. So maybe that could be the thought process on it a little bit. Just wanted to talk about that side of it.
I think it's an interesting point of like providing that leader for them, and he does fit exactly what you need. Who's going to get you a bucket in those last 2 minutes, right? I just think that if you're Houston, you're in such a prime spot. Yeah, you could afford to do the KD trade and still have options, but like you can be patient here and work for the perfect fit, which I think is probably what they should do.
That was such an interesting, deep, nuanced conversation. I'm starting to think you do want to talk about this Kevin Durant stuff. You mentioned the Miami Heat, and actually Locked On Heat host Wes Goldberg says that the Heat are actually uniquely positioned, have an advantage in these conversations. But we have to talk about NBA Finals. I'll spare you that, Haize, because we'll talk about it tomorrow. So stay tuned. I've got that sound for you tomorrow. Why the Heat are uniquely positioned in this Kevin Durant search. So back to the NBA Finals for now, and Game 3 is tonight. Can the Pacers avoid another double-digit first-half deficit? Tony East of Locked On Pacers thinks so, but only if improvement starts at the top and away from the ball.
Tyrese Haliburton just has to be better than this. They've tried to play the 4-on-4 game when he's guarded away from the play by Dort. They've tried this and that. The key is make sure he's moving on and off the ball, get him the ball on the move, set him screens to make it so he's already got space on the catch, because Lou Dort is giving him fits. I mean, is he the best player Lou Dort has just singularly, like, really bothered? Does he do this to everybody? Is this the torture chamber in a nutshell?
I mean, this is what Lou does. He shaves off of what you typically expect from the other team's number one. And it's also been a team effort from Oklahoma City, a concerted effort to get guys out of their rhythm and of their routine. I mean, Anthony Edwards is not who he was for the regular season against the Thunder. Jamal Murray was not who he was and has been in the past against the Thunder. Tyrese Haliburton's had a moment. He hasn't had a game yet against Oklahoma City. And I totally agree with you that ideally, again, if you're going to close your eyes and dream something up, you would dream up getting Haliburton involved more off the ball.
Haize, apart from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, has Lou Dort been the most important player in this series and maybe this entire postseason for OKC so far?
I think you can definitely make a conversation for that. His two-way play, especially defensively, has been so consistent, and when he does give you some big numbers offensively, like it's special. So Lou Dort, there can definitely be a conversation made for that, and maybe my whole narrative and my agenda to get Alex Caruso a Finals MVP may need to be shifted elsewhere. But Lou Dort has been really important for this team, and I think he has. You may not call him the best player, but call him the most important. I think that's a fair statement there.
Some numbers on this with Lou Dort defending via NBA.com's admittedly wonky tracking data. With Lou Dort defending Tyrese Haliburton, 1 of 5 from the field. He's got 5 shots across 55 possessions, 4 dimes, only 1 turnover because Haliburton never turns the ball over. But the Pacers offense has a 76 offensive rating. That is throwing bricks in a trash can. It is amazing how he is able to just disengage these guys. I think that Tony's correct, though, here. The way to counter this is Tyrese, one of the things I love about him is that he's able to emulate a few different styles. He's a good enough shooter to emulate a lot of different guys. He's got a lot of different passes in his bag. He's never going to be like DeMar DeRozan, post up, fade away. Not yet, anyway. But I think you need to run him a little bit like Steph. You need to be running a lot of off-ball actions. It needs to be relocation stuff for him, even if it's just relocation not to get a shot. But then Lou has to make a desperation closeout, get him out of position. The big key with OKC, you got to get him in rotation and out of position. If you can do that, you might be able to loosen him up for a game before they make the adjustments that they will in the next game.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, if they do that and Tyrese is able to lead the Indiana Pacers to a finals victory, would he be the greatest Pacer of all time? Even more so than Reggie Miller? Stay tuned. I'll ask Matt and Haize that ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like the NBA Finals. The intensity, every possession mattering, the fans losing their absolute mind out there. It's the kind of atmosphere you really have to experience live. And this year's finals are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats for playoff games, for finals games, any game. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. The NFL season is approaching, and I'm already looking at my fall calendar, picking which games to hit. You'll find great seats for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts, and with the Game Time guarantee, your tickets are 100% authentic, will arrive on time, and you're always going to get the best price with fees included. So what you see is what you pay. That's nice. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account today, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Game Time. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Matt, before we got started here taping the show, you brought up an interesting question that I think we should ask now before the Thunder do what I think they're going to do, which is render it completely irrelevant. If Tyrese does lift the Pacers to a finals win somehow, and he wins finals MVP, is he the greatest Pacer of all time? Matt, since you brought the question up, I'll give it to Haize first. Haize, what do you think? Is he the greatest Pacer of all time if he wins a finals and wins finals MVP?
Man, that is an amazing question. Shout out to Matt just coming up with the tough, hard questions there. I think that he is in the conversation. I still can't say, and keep in mind, I grew up watching Reggie Miller, so it's an affinity there that's different, even though I hated him as a Bulls fan at the time. But it's, if you're talking about accolades, bringing a title to Indiana and getting finals MVP, it has to put him right up there in the conversation. Now, if you're talking about in the hearts and minds of Pacers fans, I think he's going to have a harder hill to climb than that, even if he's able to win the title, especially against this. I mean, you think beating this Thunder team would automatically put him there, but the conversation gets interesting. I'm not willing to say yes, but the conversation gets interesting.
Yeah, I had a whole discussion about this on another show that you can check out on my Twitter channel. Shout out to Brandon Anderson for bringing in this question and kind of like helping me form up this kind of concept and framing of it. The question of like longevity versus individual title is fascinating because like here's a good thought exercise. If the Mavericks don't win the 2011 title, but they do win last year's, that's two hypotheticals. Just bear with me here. If they did win in 2024, but they didn't win in 2011, who's the greatest Maverick of all time? Is it Luka Doncic or is it Dirk Nowitzki? Right? Tyrese has only been there 3 years. And Reggie was great for 15 years. All those battles, the original choke moment, all of these moments. But in this playoff run, Tyrese has had like 7 iconic moments, which is insane. And if you look back at the history of the Pacers, I could talk about a lot of great Pacers, but they are they're more obscure guys. Like I would love to talk about like Jermaine O'Neal. That dude was a bucket. Okay. You go back, you talk Dale Davis. That dude was awesome. Rick Smits, extremely underrated center. Bob Natolicki, back in the ABA days. I'm dropping a Bob Nito reference here. The Pacers have this robust history, but they haven't won an NBA title. And so I think it really is interesting to think about it through the prism of fans love title teams, understandably so, and how that shapes the relationship and how that love impacts the greatness factor of these various players.
I think if Haliburton did win a title and won Finals MVP, it would almost lock him into the longevity argument. It would just be a case of it having to actually play itself out, particularly with that team where it's not built around sort of a super team mentality. I'm typically a longevity argument guy. I have to be because I cover the Charlotte Hornets, and the only arguments that you can make for Charlotte Hornets, because there are no accomplishments, are all about longevity. But I think in this case, considering the context, if Tyrese Haliburton were part of a Heatles type of team that had been constructed in such a way to win a title, but that's not really what happened here. And if he led that, and considering that he would have to jump up in individual performance to actually accomplish this, I think would also be just one more thing to put on the pile for him to be the greatest Pacer of all time. But
I think it's a great point. I think it's really interesting. It's a fascinating question that you're right. We probably will not have to deal with the answer of.
All right. Well, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. A few minutes left here. Let's get to some news out of Memphis. The Grizzlies officially announced yesterday what had previously been reported, that Zach Edey had surgery to stabilize an injured ankle and will miss at least the next 4 months. Let's get more details from DeMichael Cole, Grizzlies beat writer and host of Locked On Grizzlies.
This was simply a situation where the ankle is looser than normal, which will tend to lead to more of these incidents going forward over the course of his career if they don't get in there and restabilize it. So his ankle, left ankle at this point, was a little bit looser. So that was going to make him, subjected to more ankle sprains and, quite frankly, to easier ones. So the fact that he sprained his ankle in the off-season, training session, not an NBA game that was very high intensity, was kind of a sign that, okay, we got to get this addressed. This is not a career-threatening injury, even for a guy of Zach Edey's size. All indications that have been given to me, this is a situation where he's going to come back. He's expected, to be better.
Okay, Matt, I know you don't cover the Grizzlies, but I know you pay close attention to them. So what kind of setback is this for Zach Edey and for the Memphis Grizzlies, particularly if he misses some portion of the beginning of the season?
It's going to be rough, man. I mean, Brandon Clark should be back, so that'll help. And the lineups with Jackson and Clark are really good. But you got to have another guy, and you got to have a guy for those bigger matchups. And they don't have one. They can't just roll the small ball out there. So they're going to have to try and find a center. There's so many teams right now that need to find a center. And I don't know where they're going to do it. And the other thing is you have to find a center that's disposable, because apparently this entire organization is built around trying to build up Zach Edey into an all-star. The advanced metrics on him are very good. They won their minutes with him. He's very good. I just hate building around that player when they have Jaren Jackson and Bane and Ja. I'm really curious to see what happens this summer, Haize. Especially, I wonder, Ja's not getting traded. Jaren's not getting traded. I don't know about Bane. And so I wonder if maybe that's going to be the move here is to get the temporary solution in a Bane trade this summer.
It could be. It would suck that they would have to do that without really getting another opportunity to get all those guys healthy and on the same page after how many years they've been investing in the development of those guys. But the Zach Edey piece of it is it's interesting. Like Zach Edey was better than I gave him credit for. Coming into this league, I got to admit that I was wrong on how effective Zach Edey could be at the NBA level. But there's still times where you can't play him in fourth quarters of some games, and that's going to continue to be the story, I think, for maybe the entirety of his career. So you're going to have a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. there. I think long term, even though he suffers with his own ability to stay out of foul trouble. So I don't know if they make a big move this offseason, but with all the movement around, I wouldn't be surprised about it. I just hope that the Zach Edey thing, if they're committed to Zach Edey, they're going to have to have some other players and the contrast to styles coming off that bench, and Brandon Clark can't stay healthy to be that. So I guess we'll see what they do there.
All right, prediction time to end the show. Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Give me the team that wins and also give me the headline. What are we talking about tomorrow if that team wins? Matt.
Pacers 113, Thunder 110. We're talking about Pascal Siakam taking over and helping deliver a huge Game 3 win for Indiana.
I like that.
All right,
Haize,
great.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go Pacers win too with Siakam, so I'm going to change it up for the nature of the conversation. Still got Pacers winning here. I think they're going to have a lot of momentum coming into this game, being at home. But just to see who's right between me and Matt, I'll say Tyrese Haliburton drops 31, 10, and 6 today.
You mean across like the next 4 games against OKC? Because that's what they allow.
This game. That's like this game. This is going to happen this game.
My big prediction, though, Doug, is that we talk about Kevin Durant for the next 4 days on this show.
I like the odds. I don't know what the odds are on FanDuel, but I have to say they're pretty high that's going to happen. So you each take a player for the Pacers to be the headline. Haize, you have Haliburton. Matt, you have Siakam. Matt, do you think that your prediction would be a Siakam coming out aggressive in the first half? Or would that be they're trying to look for Hallie early, it doesn't work, and then Siakam says, all right, give me the ball, I'm going to go make this happen in the second?
Pacers, I think, are something like 8-0 when they lead at the half in the playoffs. So that's like the easiest script here. They can definitely pull off the comeback, as we've seen a handful of times. But I do think that the easiest pathway, the most direct pathway, is for them to lead at the half. That looks more like an OKC shooting slump. They shot the lights out in Game 3. The Pacers shot terribly. This looks like a regression spot from a lot of angles. It doesn't always happen. That's not how regression works, but it does tend to happen a little bit more than you think in the NBA, of game to game, the bounce back. So I think that's part of this is Thunder come out, can't hit anything. Pacers build a lead. Thunder come back in the third, but the Pacers are able to put them away with a push in the fourth quarter from Hallie and Siakam.
My finals prediction is still holding, so I will go ahead and take the Thunder selfishly to win Game 3. And my prediction is that we're all eating 3-piece crispy tenders because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander drops a 50 burger in Game 3 and just puts this thing entirely to bed, courtesy of our friends at DoorDash. I just really want free crispy tenders. I think I'm just hungry. It's almost lunchtime here. I'm sorry. Okay, if you like what you heard today, particularly the Kevin Durant conversation, because we're going to talk about it tomorrow as well, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. We have to talk about the Kevin Durant stuff because you heard Wendy. This thing's going to be over quick. We have to go ahead and talk about it now. Thanks to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NBA Big Board Show. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Enjoy our beautiful game tonight. Check out Locked On NBA Game Night. It's on this feed. They'll be recapping the game tonight. Be kind to each other. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.